If you really want to see God, you can climb to the top of a mountain. But I've never heard anyone say that if you want to see God, go to a water park.
What kind of movie is this? Is this a drama?
It's cookie cutter crap.
Yes, an action-adventure film. Come on, this is Squaw. A comedy?
We're not a development company.
At times. Is it a tragedy? Potentially. A war film? Well, there's certainly a battle. Mystery? There's no shortage of deceit. Horror? Definitely. A tearjerker?
Sad. Makes me cry a little bit.
Yes, tears have been shed. But above all, this is a romance. A love story about how people can rise up and defend the integrity of an incredible place. About the power of their collective passion as they stand up to a corporate Goliath to protect what they love, the mountains. Lake Tahoe and a spectacular Sierra Valley with its incomparable terrain, heritage, culture, and way of life. This is the movie to Keep Squaw True.
Growing up here and raising my kids here was just amazing. It's such a unique, gorgeous place with such great energy.
Mark Twain wrote of Lake Tahoe as it lay there with the shadows of the mountains brilliantly photographed upon its still surface. I thought it must surely be the fairest picture the whole earth affords. That picture is an international treasure, an escape from an artificial and urbanized world where a remarkable natural playground lures, seduces, and provides for fun lovers of all kinds. Tahoe is nothing less than a recreational and spiritual utopia.
What drew me to Tahoe are those crystallizing experiences that you only find in the mountains.
Just the ease of getting out into nature and, just being able to go get lost in the woods and just kind of escape from the hustle and bustle of life.
I think it's important for everybody to experience that connection with nature.
Whether you find yourself in a wildflower-filled meadow, a crystal-clear lake, or a snowy peak, there's something about being in the mountains that shifts your perspective and shapes your life.
I have a connection with this place that is, to me, pretty profound.
It's a magical place.
Among Tahoe's greatest draws is Squaw Valley. Just 5 miles from the lake's north shore, it's a majestic valley where the Washoe tribe once lived and wove baskets alongside a winding creek. It's a place Wayne Poulsen Jr., son of the first ski family to settle here in the 1940s, describes as filled with power. It's where Alex Cushing took command, opened a legendary ski area, and welcomed the world with the 1960 Olympics. It's a place that became synonymous with adventure, an epicenter for generation after generation of forward-thinking and gifted athletes who push the envelope with human performance in all kinds of outdoor endeavors. It's a place where so many have eschewed more lucrative careers to pursue their passions in the mountains because their riches come in a different form. Where the person bagging your groceries has skied on all 7 continents. The house painter across the street has summited 5 peaks over 20,000 feet. The nurse who is saving your life is the woman who set the record for the highest waterfall run in a kayak. Or the attendant helping you park in the squaw lot runs 100-mile ultra marathons. It's a place that's given birth to an inordinate number of legends, icons who define our sports and inspire the world through an uncanny fusion of skill and courage.
Just being in that atmosphere is stimulating in many, many ways, and it's a culture that is unique for me. I've never seen it or experienced it anywhere else.
Squaw Valley is the home of one of the richest mountain legacies in the entire world. And now,
We are super proud to be announcing the opening of the world's first and only ski and ski out Starbucks.
whoa. Wait a second. What happened there? Well, one ridiculously smart person has called it
Alpine neocolonialism at its finest.
Let's backtrack for a second to the late 90s. InfraWest, a real estate development company that was busy transforming ski area base areas all over North America into cash flow machines, saw a vast, empty parking lot at the base of Squaw as a wasted opportunity. Alex Cushing, who many would justifiably note was no saint, once had even loftier ambitions for development. But in time, he succumbed to the realization that he was only, as he put it, in the business of uphill transportation.
Said, you know, we live here. You as a developer, you come in and you go out, you know, whatnot. But this is home for us. And unless you're prepared to do something substantially better than you've ever done before, don't waste our time.
While still operating the ski area, he sold the base area rights to InfraWest, and between 1996 and 2000, they built the first stage of the village at Squaw Valley. KSL Capital Partners, an out-of-state private equity firm, wanted in on the action. KSL had never owned a ski area, but their competitors, like Whistler and Vail, were crushing it, not only in skier counts, but year-round revenue. KSL was hungry for a piece of the pie.
Alex has left very strict instructions never to sell this area to any big giant ski corporation or anything like that.
Oh, yeah, well, I think we do better on our own.
Alex Cushing passed away in the summer of 2006. His wife, Nancy, took the helm as CEO. But in 2010, she sold Squaw Valley, USA, in its entirety to KSL. KSL's newly founded Squaw Valley Ski Holdings was led by a charismatic CEO, Andy Worth. He immediately promised $50 million in capital improvements. He buddied up with influential athletes and community members and threw money at local nonprofits and charitable causes. In the summer of 2011, KSL eliminated Squaw's principal competition, neighboring Alpine Meadows, by buying it. Regulars of the low-key ski area were, by and large, leery and less than delighted to be under the reign of such a major corporation. Many changes at Squaw were swift, catching those devoted to Squaw off guard. A place renowned for being extreme somehow became extremely pedestrian. Attempts to tame the mountain felt like the castration of Squaw. In autumn of 2014, local nonprofits and Squaw athletes received an odd request to sign on to a letter unconditionally showing full support for Worth, citing his tremendous philanthropic efforts. The letter went on to compare Worth with Mother Teresa. A curious local journalist noticed the letter was a Word document, which allowed him to trace it to its source. Ironically, the letter showering praise upon Andy Worth was written on a computer owned by Andy Worth.
Why?
Tahoe locals were taken back by this brazen attempt to exploit charities in service of corporate propaganda, a kind of strategic fabrication that would, in time, increasingly invade the region. With the distinction between Worth's philanthropy and strategy muddled, more red flags spring into the air.
I represented this mountain for a huge chunk of my life, but I couldn't, in good conscience, support a company that was steamrolling a community like this.
While many were growing leery of KSL's tactics, the real source of contention for the Squaw community is what KSL proposed for the base of the mountain, development the size and scope of which the Sierra Nevada has never seen.
Squaw Valley. It's glorious.
Sorry, folks. Higher-ups tell me putting some big, tall buildings in here.
1,500 hotel rooms, buildings towering dozens of feet higher than what already exists.
Not gonna be able to see this view no more.
Luxury homes built at the mouth of pristine Shirley Canyon, a 90,000 square foot, 96 foot tall indoor water park, as wide as a Walmart and 3 times as tall. And on a part of the mountain where brave athletes once tested their mettle by soaring through the air in the 1960 Winter Olympic ski jump, a roller coaster would now snake its way down the mountain. The development would level remaining historic buildings from the 1960 Olympics and contribute to polluting Tahoe's legendary waters by adding 3,000 car trips a day to roads already at gridlock. And the valley would be subject to construction spanning 25 years. All of this in one of the most beautiful, easily accessible natural treasures in the Sierra.
I recognize that change is always going to happen, but it doesn't need to be change like this.
It's almost impossible to think of a development proposal that is so out of touch with the values that make Tahoe so special in the first place. But it shouldn't be that surprising, because we have to remember when KSL came to town, at a public meeting, they stood up, and one of the things they said is, "There is nothing to do here in the summer." If that's your premise, that there's nothing to do here in the summer, you might end up proposing an indoor water park.
It's a bucket list mountain for skiers and snowboarders alike, but once visitors are done for the day, Squaw Valley argues they need more to do and places to stay.
Our customers are demanding something more in the afternoon part of their experience at the ski mountain and at other times of year, something more in terms of recreational opportunities.
The developers are based in Denver, promising the creation of hundreds of year-round jobs as it competes to become a premier tourist destination.
They say that we need to build to make this a world-class mountain, but it is already a world-class mountain.
But KSL is a private equity firm. They didn't buy Squaw Valley to serve its traditional day and weekend skier customer base. Why welcome tailgating day skiers when you can sling Starbucks and cash in on condos? And the more the merrier, all the time.
We got a massive building that's going in right here.
Seriously?
Yep. Got a 100-foot tall water park. Good times.
Water park? We got one of the best water parks in the world, just down the road. It's called Lake Tahoe.
You can't make the money off of people going in the lake.
That's not the point.
Oh, yeah it is.
Don't get me wrong, I personally think that water slides are great. I think that roller coasters are great. I think that they're fun. And there's a place for that. That's not the Sierra Nevada. What that is a distraction from where you are. It's a distraction. And the thing that builds relationship is attention. And so why would we ever build distractions into our temple? And that's the roller coaster you need right there.
Yes, change is inevitable. Totally get that. But it's what kind of change is it? We need to preserve the environment and the uniqueness of this valley, this mountain, Squaw Valley, for our kids and great-grandkids and the future generations, so that they're able to actually enjoy what we got to enjoy growing up here. Sad, makes me cry a little bit. That's how passionate I am about this place. I love it. Oh, are you crying too, Rob? Oh, thank you. Yeah.
What are you doing? I'm sorry, it's a construction noise. Beep, beep, beep.
How long is this gonna last?
About 25, 30 years.
I'll be in the ground by then.
There are some beliefs that are dangerous for regions, and one is that with population growth around the planet, that is, development in squaw is just bound to happen. And the problem with that is that it sets up this complacency that serves the role of paving the way for exploitative forces to come in and mine away the real value that the place has.
Everyone in this community agrees that we must develop and we must sustain and grow the economy here. But there's different ways of looking at this. We have financial capital, which is one indicator of success and one indicator of growth. But we also have social capital, the people. We have environmental capital, the land. And the difference between this community and the corporation is that this community understands that you balance financial, social, and environmental capital, and that the three of those together is what drives development. Whereas a corporation, they're focused on a bottom line, and all that is money.
I'm definitely worried about seeing the pace at which development is happening, human greed, taking over our natural spaces and really pushing past the limits of what nature can handle.
A whole slew of conservation nonprofits are fighting to preserve Tahoe's future. Among them is Sierra Watch, founded in 2000.
I think one of the great things about Tahoe and about the Sierra Nevada is the extent to which it still embodies this multi-generational commitment to conservation. You can think about John Muir in Yosemite. You can think about our parents and grandparents 50 years ago who first started really working to protect Lake Tahoe. And I really see the work of Sierra Watch as just the latest version of something that's been going on for more than 100 years. This is not the first time that Tahoe has been threatened by ridiculous development proposals.
For instance, the lake's spectacular and pristine East Shore is protected only because a tycoon with plans for massive development had a change of heart and chose not to exploit it, but to preserve it forever.
This might be the most infamous example. This is called the 1980 plan. It was actually devised in 1964. And this was a plan to ring Tahoe with freeways. One of the planners actually called it like a city with a hole in the middle of it. And by the hole, he meant the lake. Maybe most infamously, even an expressway across the mouth of Emerald Bay. If this had happened, this place would be totally different from what we know Tahoe has now. Our parents and our grandparents stopped this from becoming a reality, and they did everything they needed to do. They got people involved, they talked to politicians, they went to court, and they did it. Now, I feel like it's our turn, because Tahoe once again is threatened with something that would destroy the very values that make Tahoe special, and once again, we need to stop it.
Would the Squaw Valley development really help the North Tahoe region? Or are we already at the tipping points for housing, jobs, traffic, transportation in general? Meaning, would the development push these items into unmanageable territory?
California has some of the strongest environmental laws in the entire country. And we're really a leader for the entire nation when it comes to laws protecting beautiful places like Lake Tahoe, like the Sierra Nevada. And one of the most important laws at play here is the California Environmental Quality Act.
The people that created those laws wanted the people who lived in the areas that were going to be affected by development to have some say in what the development would look like and how it would impact their lives and the lives of people that came there.
You have to do a really thorough fact-based analysis of what all of this development would mean for the incredibly precious resources, what it's going to mean for the lake, what it's going to mean for traffic, what it's going to mean for evacuation times, what it's going to mean for the night stars. And importantly, you have to do everything feasible, including considering other feasible alternatives to do as little damage as possible. This law, CEQA, it has the ability to fundamentally change what they're allowed to do. The biggest legal problems with this development are too much traffic, too much pollution in Lake Tahoe, fire danger, not enough water, and climate change. These are really serious issues that touch every aspect of our quality of life here in Tahoe.
The project's draft environmental impact report, or EIR, listed 23 significant and unavoidable impacts, running the gamut from the visual impact of urbanization to noise pollution, to housing, to water supply availability, to degradation of the valley's character and everything in between.
But the environmental review for this development was just deeply, deeply, incredibly flawed.
This is the worst environmental review I've ever read, and I'm not saying that to be insulting, saying it out of frustration.
They totally messed up traffic.
If you look at traffic, that alone is enough to make this development make absolutely no sense. It would add about 3,000 new daily car trips to our crowded Tahoe roads. Tahoe is already famous for really bad traffic.
A lot of the environmental analysis for this project was so bad it's laughable. We're at a hearing and the developer is explaining to everybody how even after the development's built out, you're going to be able to cruise straight from Truckee to Squaw Valley at 45 miles per hour on the busiest powder day, Saturday of the year. And the entire room just bursts out laughing. It's not just funny, it's totally illegal. The biggest threats to Lake Tahoe are climate change and sediment, and this development would be bad for both. It would put thousands more cars on the road each day, and more than 1,000 of those cars would drive into the basin, grinding up sediments that end up in the lake.
It adds the pollutants to Lake Tahoe that are clouding the lake and robbing it of its famous clarity.
If this project is approved, it's going to catalyze even more climate change impacts. And I really think we need to evaluate this specific, significant, and avoidable impact of the increased greenhouse gas emissions that are basically being avoided and pushed off the table simply because we don't have the research or the models available to see what this project could really contribute.
To me, one of the greatest disappointments with the ongoing plan for the Squaw Valley as a whole is the complete disregard of past climate change and variability in terms of planning for a sustainable future for the valley.
There's at least two really big problems with water supply in the Squaw Valley. The first is just the sheer amount of water that the development would consume. 76 million gallons of water each year. About 15 million of that is just for the water park alone. That's a lot of water. And they say that they're going to get all of that water from the really small aquifer that's below Squaw Creek. It doesn't make sense.
In a valley that has long had concerns about its water supply, the development proposal is riding on its own research that has somehow shown adequate water does and will exist. But other experts aren't so convinced, and the idea of developing Squaw beyond its limited water supplies is a heck of a what-if hanging over the valley.
Essentially, we're operating under the assumption that we have a lot of water to work with. Our paleoclimatology research has shown that there are much longer periods of generally more arid conditions, during which time we could expect, on average, say, 60 to 70% of our historical average precipitation. So if that becomes more of the norm, which it highly likely will, despite more frequent larger storms, which are projected for the future, we also are expecting warmer temperatures, which will increase evaporative demand throughout watersheds and probably also increase demands from agricultural uses and urban uses. That's going to reduce the net water availability.
It's science.
If you read the studies before this development was planned, there was a general consensus that there just was not enough water here in Squaw Valley.
The initial water availability assessments leave a lot to be desired, and I do not in any way see a reasonable plan for future dry periods.
So there's this real problem we have with 76 million gallons of water coming out of a system that's already very stressed from existing demands. So the second problem with water is, even if they theoretically could pump the aquifer dry and drain the water out from East Squaw Creek to put in this water park, that doesn't necessarily mean that KSL has the right to do that. They don't need water rights to pump groundwater, but they're not actually pumping groundwater, they're pumping surface water. And when you pump surface water, you need permission from the state to do that. They can say, no, you can't pump that water.
My concern is that we have a massive amount of development and growth, and how much can we sustain, how much can we have with the amount of roadway that we have available. And a lot of developers that are trying to create new housing communities, and that's all great, and I think we all want that, but we also have to do what's appropriate for the community and the safety of everybody here.
I'm driving with embers over the road. I'm driving through fire. I can't do anything. Keep on driving south. What's your name?
That night, there was no control. We were at the mercy of Mother Nature. We realized that we had to flee immediately or die. In this county alone, Sonoma, we lost 25 people. There were 44 people who died in this fire. And they died in part because they could not get out of the area in time. The same thing could happen in your area, except on a much larger scale, because you're talking about a lot more people on virtually the same size road.
I just can't imagine what it would be like trying to escape this valley in a fire and cars stuck in this valley trying to escape the valley.
The thought of trying to get out of here with my family and my pets and being in danger, being trapped in the valley, I think that's probably my biggest concern with the development that is proposed.
My expectation is I would have hours, and in our situation, we were fortunate to have 5 minutes, and many didn't even have that. If we had been 2 or 3 minutes slower, we would have died.
With development, Squaw Valley's estimated evacuation time in the event of a wildfire is 10.7 hours, just to the Squaw entrance light on Route 89. At that junction, there are two options: 5 miles south to the lake or 10 miles north to Truckee, both through a heavily forested canyon full of fuels.
When the people are leaving this valley, forget it.
Anyone who has sat in gridlock traffic on that highway in normal conditions can imagine the grim scene of thousands in Squaw Valley trying to escape an out-of-control firestorm.
It's a death trap. It's a total death trap. What if this happened Labor Day weekend?
With escape unlikely, the zone of supposed safety for up to 15,000 people, the parking lot. KSL calls it a safer place to shelter in place.
They're telling us to shelter in place, so go down to the asphalt parking lot and hope that we can survive the conflagration, however serious it is. That sounds real worrisome to me.
As seen in Sonoma, the unpredictability and sheer ruthlessness of an out-of-control wildfire doesn't instill a lot of confidence in a shelter-in-place disaster plan.
It's very patronizing at these meetings when you ask with a genuine concern and you're told, oh, don't worry about it. And they won't give me, I say, well, how are we gonna evacuate? I wanna see a specific plan. No, we'll take care of you.
An evacuation is gonna get done. I'm not saying it's gonna get done absolutely perfectly with no, little hiccups, but the bottom line, I think it's gonna get done, so.
The idea of simply ignoring a known risk, to me, is crazy. You could have hundreds of dead. You could have billions in property loss, and then people wondering, oh, well, how did that happen? Well, our officials say it would be fine. Officials can say everything is fine. The problem is that we have example after example of large fires that consume tens, if not hundreds of thousands of acres that will tell us otherwise. When you're contemplating adding several thousand people and 3,000 car trips a day to an area that's already crowded, and your development does not take into account how you're going to get the people out, it's a recipe for disaster. If they don't have that plan, why in the world are they considering the development in the first place?
Sobering stuff, for sure. But the development's impacts on fire danger, the lake, traffic, water, and climate change is really just scratching the surface of a proposal that threatens the values that make Tahoe so special in the first place. When Placer County opened the EIR for a period of public comment, they received roughly 350 letters from the community. 97% of those comments were against the development as proposed. 97%.
The ability, or the opportunity, I should say, to be involved in an effort where people come together to defend our mountains, to defend Tahoe, it's just a great thing to be a part of.
Sierra Watch knew from experience that the only way to defend Squaw Valley was to help channel the shared passion of the people who love it. And a movement grew, united in the color purple.
Although this is a really divisive issue, the message of Keep Squaw True is something that's actually really positive. Squaw Valley is super rad, we love it, and we're staying true to our history, keeping the focus on the great outdoors.
It's not an accidental
slogan, it really gets right to the point. The point is that Squaw Valley has a history, one that we're very proud of. And to lose its heritage that this development might do, in fact, in its current shape would do, would be a shame. And that's why the words Keep Squaw True in terms of keeping true the history, keeping true the traditions, the culture of adventure.
We want something that's going to be positive for the entire community. We know that we can get a better project than what's currently being proposed. We have 10,000 people that have signed the petition to Keep Squaw True, and 70 local businesses that have written their own letter asking for responsible development.
KSL can engage attorneys, they can fund elected officials, but the one thing that they can't match is that people power that we can generate. That's why it's been so important for us to really build a movement.
Keep Squaw True!
We hear a lot from Andy, whether it's something we read in the newspaper or might hear secondhand about how, oh, Sierra Watch is lying, or even the other day I heard that Tom Moores is just like Donald Trump. It's the oldest trick in the book. If the facts aren't on your side, you just start yelling liar, liar, pants on fire about the other people. It can be entertaining at times. The problem is that we are dealing with real issues in a real place, and Tahoe deserves a higher level of debate than the kind of schoolyard taunts and yells that we're getting.
High road response, Tom. But if a major corporation's CEO wants to play the I know you are, but what am I game, let's indulge him for a moment.
A lot of these things that are opinions that are fostered by Andy Worth and the folks at KSL stick in the craw of the members of the community.
Some of the op-eds that he's written and the emails that he sends to his employees have really, I think, stoked the fire of division here, and it's unfortunate.
We can differentiate between the truth and absolute blatant lies that are somehow folded into a neat package called marketing.
KSL has consistently peppered the public with all of the right PR buzzwords. Sustainable, green, renewable, clean. Has that kind of verbiage made you forget words like construction, urbanization, congestion, gridlock, noise pollution, emissions, and all of the other big picture ugliness that would permanently degrade and deface this beautiful alpine valley even further? That's called greenwashing.
If you read Squaw's marketing, they are leading the charge to fight against climate change. But if you read their development applications, they want to pump 40,000 metric tons of CO2 into our air each year. That's what causes climate change.
Squaw's own annual magazine has been a tireless effort to portray Worth and KSL in fake green light. In every issue, Squaw's CEO praised himself and KSL as heroic stewards of the earth. The man pushing the largest development of its kind ever in the Sierra even gloms onto the godfather of Sierra conservation, John Muir. As one of my lifetime heroes, the legendary Scotsman and environmentalist John Muir once said, "Going to the mountains is going home."
Well, he sounds like a man after my own heart.
Yeah, he's actually into building a ton of stuff.
What's this now?
Everybody needs beauty as well as bread, places to play in and pray in, where nature may heal and give strength to body and soul alike.
Ah, Andy.
People go to the Sierra, to the mountains, yes, to pray and play, but they don't go to Disneyland to play and pray. In the mountains, you can find that peace and heart and soul. And the kind of play that he's talking about is engagement with the place. When he played, he engaged with the place, not finding a way to be distracted from it.
Many, myself included, find Muir's writing compelling because it speaks to fundamental truths.
And people believe him when he spreads this fimble-famble?
We welcome you here to experience what Mr. Muir is prescribing.
Balderdash. When I spoke of towering walls, I was talking about rock.
The Sierra Club, founded by Muir, caught wind of Worth's game and wasn't particularly amused. Dear Mr. Worth, you invoke the legacy of John Muir as you pursue destruction of his beloved Sierra, and we are asking you to stop. Stop invoking the name of John Muir as if he were on your side. He's not. Worth didn't back down, claiming Muir would likely see the upgrades proposed at Squaw Valley as a plus for the region.
What?
That's enough to make a stuffed bird laugh.
The idea that John Muir would have anything positive to say about bringing a roller coaster onto a mountain in his Sierra Nevada. I'm sorry. I need a moment. That's insane.
Part of the irony here is that Worth and KSL aren't listening to this mountain. Squaw is a mountain that routinely says, I am unique. I am not like these other destination resorts you so desperately want me to be. You see, at just about every other destination resort out there, the bulk of beginner and intermediate terrain for the bread and butter skier is right there at the base of the mountain. But at Squaw, the low-angle terrain is all at the top, and that's a problem. Because the extremities of Sierra storms are beyond anything you'll see at other destinations, torrential winter rains, snow dumping at rates mountain operations can't possibly keep up with, hammering winds that routinely exceed 80 miles per hour and frequently shut down the upper mountain. When that happens, as it often does, everything and everyone is forced to the mountain's base, where steep slopes, dangerous avalanche paths, and frequent rain make opening during questionable conditions a serious challenge. Often it just can't be done. Whereas most major destination resorts rarely, if ever, fully close mid-season, Squaw can completely shut down for days in a row, and dozens of days a year. Those extremes are all part of the Squaw experience. But for the distant tourist looking for a time-certain vacation, that makes Squaw a serious gamble. There are far safer bets elsewhere. Of course, developers don't want to hear it, or at least they don't want to acknowledge it, so they seek to build these so-called amenities, what John Muir Laws calls
a distraction from where you are.
They are desperate corporate world solutions for trying to make a destination resort out of a real mountain and actual environment that routinely conspire against them. In May of 2016, it was time to decide, should Placer County approve KSL's proposal to develop Squaw Valley? The first step in the process was the county's Squaw Valley Municipal Advisory Council, which then makes a recommendation to the Planning Commission, which in turn makes a recommendation to the Placer County Board of Supervisors. A rising tide of purple made its presence felt.
I think people were really feeling good, feeling a lot of solidarity with the Keep Squaw True movement.
The local Squaw Council voted 3-1 against the development proposal, recommending serious consideration of a proposal half the size of the one presented.
We really felt like we'd made some progress in getting our voices heard, and I think it's really telling that votes against the project came from community representatives that live in Squaw Valley and are on the board to represent the community of Squaw Valley.
But speaking out to a board of people who live and breathe Squaw was preaching to the choir. The Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors, all of whom live on the other side of the crest of the Sierra, were going to be a different beast. The Planning Commission was given every reason to turn down KSL. California Attorney General Kamala Harris sent them a 15-page letter documenting grave concerns about the project's impact on Tahoe's famed clarity and pointing out flaws in the environmental review process. At the packed hearing in August 2016, the purple Keep Squaw True Army was out in force.
This project completely misrepresents us, the people of North Tahoe.
I'm here to argue against the project as a weekender.
To deny this project because the EIR is simply fatally flawed.
Entirely inconsistent with the purposes of CEQA. To make it safer and sounder, and it might just save lives.
I have worked part-time at the Tahoe City Library for over 15 years, and I suggest if you get bored with the splendor and beauty that is Squaw Valley, read a book.
But after a marathon 10-hour session with very little deliberation, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the project by a vote of 4-2. The Planning Commission's action was only a recommendation. The Board of Supervisors would actually vote the project up or down. But it certainly shined a light on the county's principal interests.
Money is a very powerful motivator for a few people on a short term. And there are experiences and feelings that can't be monetized. And if everything is on a budget sheet, and that's your ultimate way of seeing value, I think it would be very easy to be confused.
Promises of money would trump the future of Tahoe yet again when the battle came to a head at the Placer County Supervisor hearing in November of 2016. KSL was well aware they'd be heavily outnumbered by passionate purple masses at the hearing, so they bussed in paid employees on the company clock to fill seats and create the illusion that their side of the room was as personally invested as the broader community.
I have friends who were on the other side who were ashamed to be there representing KSL. This one kid actually got off the KSL bus, walked straight over to the Keep Squaw True table out front and said, "Hey guys, I just want you to know I'm on your side. I'm backing what you do. I just couldn't say no to my boss today." And then he asked for stickers and a t-shirt. And I said, "Buddy, you might want to back away. Andy Worth is right over there." And the kid came back like 10 minutes later.
The tactic helped give KSL numbers, but you can't buy passion. And those against the project brought that in spades.
I knew I couldn't live with myself unless I came and I defended Lake Tahoe.
On the one hand, it was beautiful because you had hundreds of people standing up to defend Lake Tahoe and the mountain values that we need to protect.
This plan is utterly audacious. I can't even believe it got to this point. How can this be? The number of environmental impacts it has on this area.
Squaw and Tahoe deserve better.
Up here, our riches come in a different form, in our ability to interact with Tahoe's spectacular natural environment.
The outdoors are the backbone of this economy, and this development is threatening that.
We don't care about our lattes. You're underestimating them. What they care about are their experiences with nature.
Money cannot buy Lake Tahoe and its clarity.
Companies should not control communities.
Don't let disturbed land become destroyed land.
This gamble does not belong in Squaw Valley. It violates our culture and our character. It is so disappointing that this developer has chosen to emulate Disneyland.
We love water parks when they are put in the right places, not when they are put in a beautiful valley like Squaw.
Make the focus a training facility and bring the heights down to a level that don't compromise the beauty and integrity of this iconic valley.
It makes us sad to think that a water park would be what people experience when they come to the mountains, because mountains can be so much more.
I gotta tell you, this water park, it gets me to the core. Nobody needs it. We don't need it to make money. You go to the ski hill, you go on the hikes, you experience this beautiful natural environment. You have the time now to make the right decisions.
All you have to do is say, stop. This isn't right. Tone it down.
Project opponents were not only teeming with passion, they were also armed with substance, picking apart the project's laundry list of serious detrimental impacts one by one.
KSL's proposed overdevelopment in Squaw Valley doesn't just threaten our environment and our quality of life. It creates very real threats to public safety.
As we've heard, this plan ultimately exacerbates the workforce housing crisis in our region.
Where on earth does KSL or Placer County expect 464 employees, most holding seasonal or low-wage jobs, to find housing?
They have committed to make a one-time contribution of $500,000 to the county for workforce housing development. That is less than one house here.
Upon closer examination, the alleged benefits proved to be either speculative, insignificant, or completely illusionary.
Countless flaws in the EIR and specific plan were exposed.
Data presented to you in front of you today is, in fact, incorrect.
They have created this rosy picture from survey data from the 2011.
This model, in the words of the man who created it, was, quote, neither designed nor calibrated for such a purpose.
Pollution from the proposed project would increase nutrient levels and further reduce clarity.
I want to repeat a CEQA reference, 21002. The legislature finds and declares that it is the policy of the state that public agencies should not approve projects as proposed if there are feasible alternatives or feasible mitigation measures available.
It's a very surreal moment, almost like you're just living in a farce. Everyone in the room knows what's going on, and we all know how unjust it is, but nothing is being done about it.
The Board of Supervisors bought it because he's the KSL attorney, and he's supposed to be the smart guy, know-it-all.
So do you feel that you've gone above and beyond to do the public outreach and to listen to all the community's concerns? It seems to me that you have.
We have certainly tried.
I was really thinking like we had this one and that the county was going to listen to us, and then over the course of that meeting, just...
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say that I'm getting a little frustrated because I'm hearing basically the same things over and over again. I'm just kind of letting everybody know where I'm at right now.
We've had speaker after speaker coming up with the Keep Squaw True. That's the one thing that didn't get answered for me in this hearing is, what does that mean? What does Keep Squaw True mean?
Did you not hear us? 100 public comments for hours and hours.
I just have the sense they just don't get it and perhaps don't care about it.
After 9 hours, the supervisors threw down the hammer,
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
voting 4-1 in favor of the project.
We are adjourned.
Democracy fails, wins again.
A $1 billion project now set to transform one of Tahoe's gems.
I got in my car and I just started crying because I was heartbroken.
It really felt like a betrayal.
I don't know. I can't even imagine. Like, why would they want to do that? You know, it totally changes everything.
You could see the people from KSL congratulating themselves because they got their approvals. Getting approvals from Placer County is a lot like getting a trophy for playing on a T-ball team. Everybody gets them. That's what Placer County does. They approve development.
When you just kind of look at kind of dollars and cents and economic motives, it's a very powerful driver. And that precedent is going to be disastrous for the Sierra Nevada.
It's natural to feel defeated if you're not listened to, but you never give up.
You know, a lot of people say, well, we'll just leave. We're not going to stick around to watch it happen. And I get that concept too, but it makes me feel like we got to stand our grounds and make sure that it doesn't go that route.
Keep Squaw True! Keep Squaw True! Keep Squaw True! Keep Squaw True! Keep Squaw True!
Thanks to so many with that fighting spirit, this is not a sad ending. It's not even the ending.
A couple of us, when the gavel dropped and the decision was made, we actually turned to each other and high-fived because we knew we could pivot out of the corrupt county approval process and into the state courts. And that's what we've done.
Sierra Watch already started that litigation process, and they have a track record of being successful in these litigation processes to come out with smaller, more responsible development projects. So I'm really excited that they're continuing this fight for the local community, and I think we should just continue to support them in this fight.
The movement to keep Squaw True is just getting started, and the future of Squaw Valley and North Lake Tahoe hangs in the balance. In the fall of 2017, in the race against Vail for North American ski resort domination, KSL merged with Henry Crown and Company to form Alterra Mountain Company, a corporation overseeing 12 iconic mountain resorts. Alterra's approach to resolving the turmoil in Squaw remains to be seen. There is hope that they will recognize the value of Squaw as a real mountain, and not just as real estate. In late March of 2018, Andy Worth's embattled reign came to an end when KSL announced his retirement. A little much? Well, not to some people.
What we're doing is just standing up for the community as a public interest to make sure that we maintain the culture and the heritage of this place.
Keep showing up, keep standing up for our mountains, and we will keep Squaw True.
We're really hoping that Alterra will come in as more of a community partner and less dictating to us what's going to happen with Squaw Valley, but instead work with the community, find a shared understanding of what we can build here that will really benefit the entire North Lake Tahoe-Truckee region.
We need to set a different precedent. We need to set the precedent of the mountain people and the river people, and the snow people, and the bird people, and the hunting people, and the thru-hiker people, all those people, all those tribes, we need to come together. We need to show that this is something that is important to us, that we say no, that we will stop it here, and we will stop bad ideas like this wherever they pop up.
We shouldn't be looking back on this time in history saying, how did we let that happen? Now is the time to speak your truth and to speak your values and to take action about a place that you love.
I'm not sure if people recognize how close we are to showing the entire industry that there's going to be a turn in the tide, not just in Squaw Valley, but across the nation, in the direction of developers having to honor mountain culture and the wisdom that lies within it.
Please listen to us. It's important.
And every time someone dives in the lake, or drops the Palisades, or takes in the stars in the night sky, the passion grows. Meanwhile, the development stalls. In the 7 years since KSL first submitted their plans to transform a Tahoe mountain with Vegas-style distractions, none of it has been built. What's been built instead is something much more powerful, a shared commitment to show the world how people can love a place enough to rise up and defend it. The movement to keep Squaw true.
True to the mountains and meadows that give Squaw Valley its unique sense of place.
True to the people who live
and play in Squaw Valley.
In the Tahoe Sierra.
True to the best ski terrain in California and those who come to test themselves on Squaw's slopes.
True to Squaw Creek, Shirley Canyon, Lake Tahoe, and Squaw Valley's incredible natural scenery.
True to our Sierra heritage and the opportunities for kids to play in the great outdoors.
Check 1, 2, let's keep Squaw true. While they've been stuck up in their high rises, everyone else has been forced to compromise and compensate for their high flow rate of expenditure, disgrace to the rest of us. Will they ever be satiated? I doubt it. Their heads are too banked and clouded to determine that what they're planning to create is disrespectful to Mother Nature in the first place. Shirley would never suggest that her canyon could handle their reckless, abandoned expansion, not even to mention that the traffic will stretch till the 22nd century. Straight upsetting, they're simply sucking dry an ecosystem that's in drought already. To build a village you need walls, but the only 100-footers we want in these hills are walls of freedom.
I want to thank Supervisor Euler for wearing purple with us. Solidarity, brother.
Then I made of concrete, but they're built to last. Walls of freedom have a granite soul, and you can never forget that you can't take that freedom and for granted. And you can never forget that you can't take that freedom for granted. You can never forget that you can't take that freedom for granted. You can never forget that you can't take that freedom for granted. You can never forget that you can't take that freedom for granted. You can never forget that you can't take that freedom for granted. Can't take that freedom for you granted. Can never forget that you can't take that freedom for granted. Overdevelopment in the mountain towns is such a shame, shame, shame. It's a crying shame.